Miranda Darrow here, speaking to you today about developmental editing. We will cover 3 different topics. The first is, what are different levels of editing and where does developmental editing fit in? The second topic is, what subject matters of writing concepts are covered in a developmental edit? And the third topic is, what types of services can a freelance developmental editor offer? First, let's talk about different levels of editing. We talk about developmental editing first because it is the highest level. It impacts more than one scene or chapter because they are big picture topics that could impact the whole course of the story. So we wouldn't want to do proofreading or copy editing first because not all of the chapters and scenes might even still be in there. So you would be working on things that would be not included in the final manuscript. So developmental editing, big picture. The second level of editing we're going to talk about is line editing. And that's where you look on a paragraph line level and check to make sure that each sentence makes sense, uses active voice, employs clear language, and lacks continuity errors. The next level is copy editing, which looks at grammar, punctuation, spelling, and usage. It also looks for continuity too. A lot of editors, including myself, will combine line editing and copy editing together, but some editors will consider those to be 2 different services. So check the description of editing services in an editor that you're thinking about working with to see what all would be covered. And then the final level that we're going to talk about is proofreading. And proofreading is a commonly misused term, but for editors it means we're looking at the very final version before it goes to publication. And so we're not looking at a Word document or Google Docs, we're looking at a PDF or other final version, and they're looking for extra lines, spaces, misplaced punctuation marks, or other things that happen when you format a document for final publication. So developmental editing is the first that should be done because it addresses the high-level subject matters. What are these high-level subject matters that would be covered in developmental edit? And these are the best things to talk about with writing. Talk about plot. Is it logical and consistent with what's happening? Is it plausible? Even in a fictional story universe, things still need to make sense. You don't want any jumps in reasoning and gaps where readers will be like, but what about this? And think that something got dropped or missed. You also want to make sure that the pacing is good so that the action is ramping up as you're going towards big action scenes. And then after that, the pacing can slow down so that the characters can reflect and react and have some growth arcs. Another topic to talk about in relation to plot is proportion. Are the side characters and subplots taking too much attention, or are they overshadowing your main characters and your main plots? And are you spending too much time or not enough time on world building and other subject matters? Another area of writing craft to talk about in a developmental edit is point of view and perspective, and also verb tense. Is it consistent? Does each POV character have their own distinct narrative voice? And is it consistent with the genre and age category and the current market expectations? And are we avoiding and identifying if there's too much head hopping going on? Another area that could be looked at in a developmental edit is looking at your characters. Are your characters different? Are they multidimensional, or are they stereotypes, in which we could improve that? Do your characters have an inner wound so that they can have a character growth arc? And are your characters acting consistent, especially your main character or characters, with their goal, motivation, and conflict? And so the goal is what your character wants, the motivation is why they want it, and the conflict is what stands in their way to getting what they want. And so this should all be pretty apparent to readers so that they know what that character wants and why. And they should also know the stakes. What's going to happen in this universe to this character, to people that they care about, if they're not able to reach their goal, because this will cause the readers to become invested and want to keep reading the story to see if their character will be able to reach their goal. Another thing to look at, is there enough conflict? Is there enough tension to sustain a full novel? Is there opportunities to add some micro tension? If there's scenes that are just kind of in the soggy middle, where are some more opportunities to add some conflict? Another area is world building. Is there tangible and important details that would show a reader what this character's universe looks like? Is it being filtered through your POV character's perspective? Is it logical? Even if it's fantasy, it should still be logical. Is it consistent, or are the rules kind of changing without an explanation? And is it too much at one time? Are we info dumping this world building? And should we pull it back some and dole out the world building details spread out more and in a just-in-time method? Other things that could be looked at in a developmental edit include, is it appropriate for the audience and genre and the age category? Is this what the current market would expect? Are you following the story expectations and tropes for the genre that you're writing? And some additional concerns would be continuity, foreshadowing, and dialogue. And are you delivering your promise to the readers? Now, when I work on a developmental edit, I try to identify the top 5 to 6 issues that would most improve the manuscript if the author were to work on those in their next round of revisions. I don't try and dump absolutely everything. This is also one of the reasons why we don't try and do developmental edits at the same time we do line edits, because we need to be able to focus on a manageable number of things with concrete recommendations so that the editing plan is not overwhelming and that it makes sense. Finally, we're going to talk about what are some various developmental editing services that you could get from a freelance developmental editor. The main one would be a developmental edit letter, which would be a comprehensive letter explaining, for me, the 5 to 6 writing concepts that could use the most improvement, giving specific examples, multiple examples, with suggestions how to improve it, an explanation of what the writing concept is, an explanation of how it would improve the experience for the readers if changes were made, and then some options for how to fix it. And for a developmental edit letter, I'll give multiple examples specific to page and chapter. And it's like, when we do this, you could improve that. You could have less head hopping. You could show, don't tell. Here's some examples of exactly where and some options on how. And then it's up to the author and their revisions to follow through and make those if they choose, because developmental editing is subjective, a lot more so than copy editing and definitely proofreading. In addition to a developmental edit letter, there's also a developmental edit letter with manuscript notes. Manuscript notes would be going through your manuscript and making comments on, this is where you could do more show, don't tell. Here's another place where there's head hopping. You could fix that by some examples. And so actually showing in the manuscript where those recommendations could go. So I offer a developmental edit package that includes a developmental edit letter, manuscript notes, and book coaching, a coaching session. So that's another service that many developmental editors offer. Not all of them, because not all are comfortable talking real time with folks. We've got some introverts in the field, shocking. But for my full package, I include a coaching call, usually to just walk through the recommendations and brainstorm and come up with an editing plan. I also do freestanding coaching for people who want to work on specific issues. If somebody wants to work on show, don't tell, identifying opportunities for that in their work, and here's some to work on, here's some examples, and now you try. And so coaching is, like developmental editing, is a lot about editors teaching authors how to improve their writing skills. Another service that many developmental editors, including myself, offers are book maps, where you'll go scene by scene and chapter by chapter and map out the main plot, the subplots, the characters' growth arcs, and then with a list of recommendations for large picture issues for how things could get moved around, but just a nice map of how it should all go. Another service that is less expensive than a full developmental edit is a manuscript evaluation letter. So a manuscript evaluation letter for me would be a 5 to 6 page single-space letter that talks about your manuscript's strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities. Unlike a developmental edit letter, it's not going to give multiple examples of each. It'll give a couple examples, but it won't point out definitely all of them. And it won't go into quite as much detail about potential solutions and options that you have. A developmental edit letter for me is usually between 8 and 12 single-space pages. A manuscript evaluation letter is usually half of that. So these are different options at different price points. If you are looking into hiring a developmental editor, look at their website, because their website should include some pretty comprehensive explanations of what is included in their services, including what you can expect from work product, how long their edit letters will be, Sometimes there's a discussion of the time frame. Otherwise, ask the editor to confirm when they're available and then how long it will take. And then the rates. Most developmental editors that I know work on a per word and per project basis rather than by hour, because that's more certainty for the author. But other people do charge by the hour. That's not my style, but make sure you know what you're getting before you hire an editor. And some editors, myself included, will even give a sample developmental edit. And so a sample developmental edit is a tough thing to do because developmental editing is big picture. It is about the whole thing. So I always want to see a synopsis and some first pages to see if we can identify from the pages, are we looking at show, don't tell, and info dump as issues? And then from the synopsis, try and identify plot holes, pacing issues, character growth arc issues. And you won't be able to know all of it, but at least by the editor looking at your synopsis and pages, and by you looking at what they've identified and what their recommendations would be, you could see if you'd be a good fit. So if you have any other questions for me, always feel free to reach out, Miranda@mirandadarrow.com. If you would like a really nifty checklist that I have for what's included in a developmental edit, you can go to my website and sign up for my mailing list. Go to mirandadarrow.com, under contact, sign up for my mailing list, and my welcome email will include a link to my checklist on developmental editing. And if you're interested in more writing tips and tricks, you can like and subscribe to this channel and see all of my videos. Thank you so much and happy writing!